Whether you're in your 30s or in your 60s, and the thought of retirement has crossed your mind at least once, then stay with me. Because the way you handle your money can make the difference between living a life full of experiences and a life filled with regret. Now, I recently read a book on personal finance called Die with Zero that I shared with some members of my family and friends at different stages in their financial journey. The book says, if you die with a lot of money left in your bank account, you did something wrong. Now, that's a bold, bold claim, but stick with me. I also think it's quite a powerful idea. So in today's video, let's discuss whether this philosophy works universally or if this is only relevant to certain countries. Now, for example, since I gifted this book to my friends and family in India, is this relevant if you are an Indian retiree, especially one without a pension? Let's start with the big idea that this book discusses in the first place. The author, Bill Perkins, argues that money is just a means between your life energy and meaningful experiences. Absolutely, fair enough. The book says you trade your time and energy for money, but the whole point is that the money should give you a richer, fuller life. But here's the problem, my friends. For many of us, we work, we save, and we sacrifice for decades. In fact, statistics show that the average person works for about 43 years of their lifetime. And what's the point if they die with a hefty bank balance without actually enjoying it? Now, think about it. If you die at, say, age of 85 with $10,000 or 10,000 pounds or even 10 lakh rupees in your bank account, what does that money represent for you? It can represent two things. The extra months or years of your life that you spent earning it, and more importantly, all the experiences that you did not have, the holidays you skipped, the dinners with family and friends that you never had, and the family trips that you postponed until someday. The point the book makes is that money is wasted because once you're dead, it's useless. There's no point being the richest person in the grave. I'll admit, when I first read this, it felt liberating, which is why I thought I'll share it with family and friends. It challenged our desi habits of oversaving sometimes. Bill Perkins talks about something called memory dividends, which I thought was quite powerful. For example, if you take a holiday in your late 20s or 30s, you don't just enjoy the trip, you get to relive these memories for decades and decades. Experiences pay interest in joy. It's a fact that our earning power usually rises with age. What feels like a lot of money in your 20s may feel smaller in your 40s. What this book encourages you to do is to spend on those experiences when you're still young and healthy. The book says this about kids too, and it's quite thought-provoking. Instead of leaving money for your kids after you die, think about it. Your kids may actually be in their 50s or 60s themselves. Instead, leave money to them when they're young, when it can actually change their lives and make an impact. But I understand. Here's where it gets tricky, especially in the Indian scenario. The philosophy works better in westernized countries where there is social security. In the US, UK, Australia, and many other countries in the developed world, even if you run out of money, the state steps in and helps you to a certain extent. At least you would have a roof over your head and food on the table. But in India, the figures are telling. Only 12% of our workforce has a formal pension that they can access in their retirement. Pension assets in India are up to just 17% of the GDP, compared to more than 80% in advanced economies. According to a report by DSP Pension Fund, India's retirement savings gap, that is, the difference between what retirees need and what they have, is growing at 10% annually, and it could hit about $96 trillion by 2050. Medical costs, rising inflation, and longer lifespans can drain even sizable drainings. And that is huge, and that's phenomenal, something that's worth considering. So obviously, as you'd expect, I had mixed reactions from people I gifted this book to, especially from people who are at different stages in their financial journeys. One of the most powerful feedbacks that I received was, well, it's a nice idea, but I don't think it's relevant for India. And I know why they're right, because in India, the biggest threat isn't missing out on memories. The biggest threat is outliving your money. And that brings us to one silent wealth killer: healthcare. For elderly households in India, healthcare eats up nearly 13 to 15% of their monthly budget. Spending on medical care is almost 4 times higher than in younger households. Also, it's a fact that India spends just 3% of GDP on public healthcare. It's one of the lowest in the world, which means you're mostly on your own. One serious hospitalization episode can wipe out hundreds of thousands, if not millions of rupees from your bank account. That is, if you have them in the first place. Now, that's the reason why many Indian retirees that I know are scared to spend freely. Because in India, the philosophy of die with zero can very quickly turn into living with zero security. There's also the clash of the philosophies, the cultural divide, so to speak. The Western mindset says that you worked really hard for all the money that you've earned, so don't really die with any regrets. Spend them as much as you can. Whereas the Indian mindset is slightly different. It says, make sure that you don't die broke, don't be a burden to the family, and absolutely leave something as a legacy for the children. Now, both these philosophies sound extremely valid, but the extremes to these philosophies have risks. If you die with too much, you have lived too safely and maybe missed out on your best years of spending. And if you outlive your money, you leave your family stressed and scrambling to help when they themselves may not be in a position to do so. The real challenge, my friends, isn't about choosing one philosophy. It is about finding a balance. So let's explore a framework that can work. Now, step number one is locking down on your essentials. Before anything else, secure your housing, secure your healthcare, and an emergency fund. Because without this, spending freely can be a huge, huge gamble. Step number two is spend intentionally. Spend on experiences that matter to you. A holiday with a family, pilgrimage with your elderly parents, a family trip celebrating milestones. Wherever you are in the world, these are our cultural memory dividends. Think about it. That one trip you take with your friends at 30, you can talk about it for decades. But if you delay it until the age of 70, chances are that your health will not let you enjoy it. Step number three is time bucket your life. Now, I think this was a cool thought. In your 20s and 30s, try and do active experiences, take risks, and travel more. In your midlife, when you're settling down with family, balance experiences with security. And in your older age, shift to experiences that are less physical, but still deeply fulfilling. Step number four is giving when it matters. Now, it's a known fact these days that our youngsters are struggling through university and huge debts and unable to get on the property ladder, etc. The book says, if you want to give to your kids, do it when they need it. Do it when it can make an impact. And this makes absolute sense in India too. A down payment for their house or support for their education is far more impactful at the age of 25 than it is at the age of 55. Now, having explored all the good concepts of the book, I still think that the book has one significant blind spot. The book puts very less emphasis on investing in education and skills. Not just for Indians, but in many countries across the world. Education is often the single best investment that you can make because it can multiply your opportunities across generations and also helps in upward social mobility. So, my friends, the question to you is this: to what extent do you apply the principles of this book to your life? Don't spend recklessly and hope for the best. That can, at best, be a gamble. The real lesson is to stop hoarding for an imaginary future that may or may not exist, and instead start using the money to actually live. So the key question isn't, should you die with zero? The key question should be, what is your enough number? If you're interested, I can make a separate video on this topic to help you plan your financial future better. Now, once you've secured that freedom number or the enough number, the rest is for making memories, not just hoarding money. So my friends, if you've stayed with me this far, I'd love to hear your view on what we've just discussed. Should we focus more on experiences or keep saving for safety? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. This is a debate that every family needs to have. And if this video gave you a fresh perspective, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone planning their retirement, either right now or maybe in the next couple of decades. So until the next video, my friends, take care.